Welcome, everybody. We're going to get started here. My name is Jeff Wyand. I'm the Director of Operations at ProtocolNow. Today's webinar, we're going to be exploring the 5 C's of protocols. Before we get started, just a few housekeeping items. This webinar is going to be recorded. We'll send a copy of it to all of the registrants afterwards, and we're also going to post it on our website. Some of my colleagues are in the chat, so if anyone has any questions, feel free to drop them in there. In addition, we also always appreciate feedback. So let us know afterwards what you think we can do better next time. And also let us know about any topics you'd like us to explore in future webinars. We want to be relevant to the community, and we want to have an impact. So if there's anything you think we can explore that we can talk about in a future webinar, let us know and we'll get to it. So just a quick agenda here. We're going to explore the 5 C's of protocols. Then we're going to talk about the ProtocolNow platform briefly, and then we're going to have some time for some Q&A. So my name is Jeff Wyand. I'm the Director of Operations at ProtocolNow. ProtocolNow is a digital platform for managing the protocol lifecycle. It offers a digital space for organizations to manifest every step of the protocol process in one place, in one location. So what are the 5 C's of protocols? Well, they're communication, consistency, complexity, coverage, and cost. So protocols are the foundation of medicine. They're the cornerstone of patient outcomes. It's what everybody uses every day to make sure the best care is delivered on time and efficiently. They exist in what we call the protocol lifecycle. A protocol is not just the steps for great care. A protocol is also the hours of development, the study that went into its creation. It's the hours of training. It's the oversight by supervisors and administration to know that the great care is not only being practiced, but also achieved. It's the time we take to review protocols to ensure that they're up to speed with current information and technology. The protocol lifecycle, of course, has problems. Nothing is perfect. The 5 C's here help us illustrate those problems. So communication is the first one. Medicine is collaborative and communication is key, but it's not just any kind of communication. The ideal form is efficient and effective. So there's 4 kinds of communication we like to talk about. The first is internal downward, internal upward, internal lateral, and external. So some examples of what these might be when it comes to protocols. So a protocol committee at a hospital gets together and they put together a set of protocols, and then they make a binder and they put that binder on a nurse's station somewhere. That's an example of internal downward communication. Internal upward would be comments and feedback about those protocols by maybe the nurses or the physicians back up to the committee. Internal lateral is, among employees. So the nurses and physicians talk amongst themselves about how a protocol is working or whether or not it needs any sort of updating. And then external communication for protocols could be a physician who just, doesn't have the right resources at their organization. And so they have to call another colleague at a different organization to make sure that they have the right protocol, make sure they're able to deliver the right care. So that's a lot of communication about protocols all over an organization. And if that communication isn't efficient, you get problems, you get delays, you get worse outcomes, more time spent on talking about care than delivering it. So one of the ways to solve some of these problems with communication is for protocols to exist in a healthy environment. So what does that look like? Well, the first thing you need for a healthy protocol environment is access. If someone is using the protocol binder at a nurse's station, then you have to wait. If the protocol is in an email chain somewhere, you have to dig it up. If it's in a SharePoint directory and you have to do 8 or 9 or 10 clicks to get to it, that's delays, that's time. Another thing a healthy protocol environment needs is a feedback system. If nurses talk amongst themselves about a problem with a particular protocol, they need to not only feel empowered to say something, but also have the means to do so. And sending an email up the chain of command isn't always the most efficient way to do that. And the other thing you need for a healthy protocol environment is transparency. So nurses, when they come on a shift, need to know that the other nurses know what they're doing, and they need to trust the physicians that they also are up to speed on the protocols. And same thing with physicians. Physicians want to come on shift and know that the team they're working with collaboratively, elbow to elbow, know what to do and how to do it. And admin at the top wants to know that everybody in their organization is trained, that they are up to date, and they know what they're doing, and that everybody has each other's back. So when you have an unhealthy protocol environment, one of the things that leads to is a lack of consistency. So consistency is doing the same thing every time with no unnecessary variation. For protocols, this means practicing the same kind of medicine for every patient. A main driver of inconsistent protocol application is that they don't get used. They're never referenced. And why wouldn't we use a protocol? Well, once again, access. Protocols might not get used because people don't know where they are. They're in that binder, they're in that folder, they're in that email. If you're not able to get what you need when you need it, you're going to work off of history. You might miss something. So another thing that doesn't help here is poor training. If you have a lack of access, you can lead to a lack of training on that material. Your organization is maybe not setting you up for success. So if you don't have access to the right resources and you're not trained on those resources, you're going to just go off of your own abilities, your own confidence. And nobody's perfect. We shouldn't be perfect. And that's how it leads to mistakes. So we all want to work in an environment that's supportive of our own abilities. Now, one of the reasons inconsistency can be such a severe problem is because medicine is complex. Protocols are not merely the steps to great care. They're also the individuals who execute the steps and the environment in which they do so. Protocol that's not responsive to the specificity of an organization is not a good protocol. The internet is full of medical information, and anybody can go on Google and look for something. And I personally know a lot of physicians that do that. But maybe you find a protocol that uses a brand name drug that your hospital pharmacy doesn't provide. Well, now you have to do more research and find out just what generic version your pharmacy does provide. These problems compound. Small inefficiencies like this over time across a large population can aggregate and create some really, really large numbers. So medicine is a science, but science has to be applied in context. Communities differ, regions differ, resources and timelines differ. If these aren't a part of your protocols, then the protocols might not work. So to combat this complexity, organizations have to empower every team member to be a stakeholder. These protocols that a nurse works off of with patients need to be responsive to that nurse. He or she has a say in how they get executed. That goes for everybody in the organization. Atul Gawande, this quote here, he talks about all over the place in the Checklist Manifesto about pushing power out of the center. So what he means by that is that most organizations are top down. A decree is pronounced, a protocol is published, and that's the law of the land. But what Atul talks about is that people need room to act and adapt. Complexity is a reality. It's not something you can wipe away or disappear. And the only way to meet complexity head on is through a coherent and flexible strategy that empowers every individual to adapt. So there's an example I like to talk about here when it comes to this concept. It's the idea of a strong link organization versus a weak link organization. So in sports, for instance, basketball is a strong link organization. It's a strong link sport. A player like LeBron James can impact every aspect of the game on both sides of the ball, offense and defense, and just completely take over everything. But something like soccer is a weak link sport. You can have the best soccer player in the world, but you need 8 consecutive passes to score a goal. And if one of those passes breaks down, you don't score a goal. So medicine is a weak link environment. The best physician, you can have the best physician, but if the nurses underneath that physician don't execute, it fails. And the same goes for nurses. You can have the best nursing line in all of hospitals everywhere. But if you have a physician that's not delivering great leadership and great, sort of execution, then, it's not going to work. If the nurses aren't adapted or aren't empowered to adapt, then it's going to fail. So a healthy protocol lifecycle is the best way to solve these problems. It's also the best way to ensure that your organization has coverage. So there's a lot of debate and discussion about liability and malpractice and medical errors, but regardless of what those numbers are, the reality is this. Does your protocol lifecycle decrease your liability? And if it doesn't, why not? So when it comes to coverage, your protocol lifecycle is an umbrella. So how big is your umbrella? How many people can fit under it? So some things to consider here would be, access. Are these protocols available? Can people see them? Are your team members trained on these protocols? Is this something they're aware of, and that there's exhaust data somewhere to show that they've actually trained on these, they've tested, they know what they are. Do your staff regularly use the protocols? It's not just a matter of knowing they exist and being trained on them, but do they reference them when they need to? If there's an emergent situation, do they know where to go, and actually do they do it? And the other thing is there a record of it? So it's not so much that people use them and train on them, but can you show anybody else that this has happened? Can you prove this to anybody else that wants to come and ask? So numbers like this are big, and nobody likes to talk about these numbers. But the reality is that whatever the number is, it's very large. 225,000 people have the most severe possible outcome for medical malpractice. Even if that number is debated, whatever the number is, it's very high, and nobody wants it. Mistakes happen, but nobody wants it. Same thing with malpractice claims. There's 85,000 of them every year. and they're growing every year. We see this. So one way to increase your insulation from legal claims like this is to prove that you provide better care. So everyone does their best and everyone puts their best foot forward, but can you show it? Can you prove to anybody? And that's where a healthy protocol lifecycle is important. Not only can it support better care, but it can tell that story to others. And that's where we get to cost. Cost comes in many forms. An obvious one is, what are the costs of your current protocol environment? So let's talk about physical printed protocols. So a binder on a nurse's station somewhere. So the pros of a physical binder are that they're public. Anyone can access them. They're all sitting there in front of you. They're also low tech. They don't require technology. You don't have to plug it in. It's not something you have to bring a battery with you somewhere. But there are a number of cons. So physical materials are sort of locked to a location. You know, if you're at lunch in the cafeteria and you get a phone call about the patient in room 3, you might have to run back up to the 3rd floor to see what the binder says. You might not be able to sort of access that protocol when you need it. You may have to designate someone else to look at it. And then you're getting more and more communication possibilities for breakdowns. Another con is that physical materials are difficult to search. Obviously, anything digital, you can just Control F and just type in anything and it'll show you wherever it is. But you can't do that in a physical material. So another thing that happens is that there's not a true lack, or there's no lack of, there's a lack any form of true tracking. You can't track what happens. If you access a protocol binder, there's no way to know that you accessed it. It's a physical binder, it's on a nurse's station somewhere. These things can also be expensive to print, to replace, and it can also just take a long time to update. You know, you can send something up to the protocol committee, but it may take forever for this to happen. And then they have to go find every binder on the floor and pull out one paper and put it in another paper. And it just turns into a long sort of nightmare that sometimes doesn't even take place. So what about a potential digital solution? So the cons of a digital solution are pretty obvious, I think. The first one is that they do require some sort of electricity. It is digital. You need a device, you need a power, you need a Wi-Fi signal usually to sort of get the initial download. And the other con is, integration. Everyone's using EHRs and no one wants to go outside that system for any reason. So making sure that your digital solution can integrate with existing systems is going to be key. So the pros of a digital solution, though, are also pretty clear. The first thing is that you want to provide real-time accessibility. This needs to be something that everybody can take with them, even in the palm of their hand or in their pocket. It needs to be something they can reference anywhere, on the go, inside a room, back at the nurse's station. It needs to be sort of seamless and streamlined. Ideally, in order to create that healthy protocol environment, users need to be able to provide feedback and sort of collaborate with one another inside this system. Digital solutions are also searchable. You can, like I said, hit Control F and find whatever you need. You can have a search function that uses metadata that you put to all of your content so that everything is linked and you can just move through it easily. The other thing is that it can leave a digital breadcrumb so that you can track that user engagement. So not just knowing that they have access to it, but that they have used it and how have they used it. So what this all leads to is the real costs: time, money, and outcomes. So how many hours a week do physicians spend fielding calls from colleagues about what to do with a certain patient? How many times do they have to communicate certain things to other staff so that certain things get done? How many times do they have to spend talking about protocols rather than executing on protocols? And all of these little minutes add up. So suddenly the physician's not leaving at the end of their shift and they're staying an extra hour to do paperwork and doing charts. Well, that adds up. That adds up to stress both in the workplace and also stress at home. And the next thing that there's a cost is money. So in order to deliver the best care, we often need the best resources and the best staff. That costs money. It's just no other way to look at it. It costs money. So anytime you can save money, you're doing a better thing for yourself, but also your patients. So at the end of the day, time plus money, well, it's about better outcomes. It's about the patient. And there's nothing more valuable than a healthy life. So that for us is the 5 C's of protocols. These are the elements that make up a healthy protocol environment. And these are the problems that ProtocolNow is a solution for. And that's what I want to talk about next. So let's talk about how to create a healthy protocol environment. This for us is the protocol lifecycle: develop, train, apply, refine. So the ProtocolNow platform allows organizations to manifest the entire platform in a digital space. So let me pull it up. So this is the ProtocolNow platform. This is the homepage. And the most immediate problem we're trying to solve here is access, and that's what we've done. Right away, every user on this platform for an organization has access to all the protocols inside that organization's content library. There is a favorites tab here so that I, as a personal user, can curate this to be as specific as I want. If I'm looking at Fragile X all the time and I can never remember the percentile charts here, I can have it as a favorite. I can just look at it right away and it's right here. And this is the key, protocol access. You click it, it opens, it's right there. So these protocols are meant to be usable, they're meant to be engaged with. So you can get a physical textbook for medicine education, but it won't really tell you what to do except for some very specific section. You have to actually pull a protocol out of it. Well, that's what these are. These are protocols. This says, here's your presentation, here's your diagnosis, and here's the steps for what you need to do. So the All tab here shows you all the protocols in your organization's environment. Your organization comes in, puts everything here, and the content library is searchable, it's navigable, you can find anything you need, and it's organized in a way that's easy to move through, because that's what you need. If, you're browsing and you need to find the thing you need, it's right here. So you just click something, the protocol, it's available, it's quick, it's fast. If you need to search for something, you can come up here, hypereclampsia, pop it up, and there's your protocol. So immediately, access is no longer a problem. Everyone in the organization has access to the protocols. They are able to access them in real time. Everything is timestamped. There's no more issues. So another thing that the protocol platform does here is that it encourages collaboration. So if we take a look at a protocol, there's a feedback section here. So one of the things you want to do to create a healthy protocol environment is inspire a situation where people collaborate, people talk, people communicate. So you want your nurses and your physicians to actually communicate about these protocols. You want to do it in a way that other people can see, because then this breeds more conversation. And if there's a lot of conversation among, say, the residents or the nurses about a protocol, maybe the protocol committee needs to take a look. So this is a way to organically generate that kind of review process. And that's key for creating a communication structure like Atul Gawande talks about, where you push the power out from the center. So there's a lot of other tools with this platform, and we don't want to go into every single one of them right now. But the admin dashboard sort of manifests a lot of these tools. So if you want to develop protocols, you can do so in this top line. You can create a protocol right on the platform. You don't have to do it in a separate third-party software, a Word document or Google Docs or something. It's all right here on the platform. You can then process it collaboratively. You can do comments with each other. Everyone can see everyone's comments. You can then send it for final approval, and then you can publish it. You can also manage all the people in your platform. You can set up different hierarchies for medical fields. The point of this platform is to be a digital solution that lets you do everything in one place at one time. So the final piece I want to cover here with the protocol platform, ProtocolNow, is a checklist feature. Protocols need to be engaging, need to be collaborative. And I've talked about that a lot here, and that's important. And something we want to do is create checklists that other people can use. So this is a checklist. This is a situation that requires multiple people to work together in concert and multiple people to know what other people are doing. And so it's a checklist. This right here, you can check these off one by one. Now, if I wanted to create this with a team, I can do that. So what we have is a checklist. There's multiple team members and multiple people are involved. We're checking off what's happening here. It's engaging. This leaves breadcrumbs for administration to know what's going on. We can track these later on. These are each individual instances of this checklist. And there's real-time updating with this engagement. And this is key. This is what people need. So that is the protocol platform. That is the 5 C's of protocols. So again, let's just review for a second here. So the 5 C's of protocols are communication, consistency, complexity, coverage, and cost. And the problems presented by the 5 Cs of protocols all revolve around the protocol lifecycle. And that lifecycle can all be solutioned. You can have everything. It's all great right on ProtocolNow, the platform. So thank you for the presentation here. And now I'll take any Q&A if there's any questions we have or if anything in the chat is bubbled up.
We don't have anything in the chat yet, but more than happy to take any questions that the group has. And great job. Thank you for that, Jeff. Definitely very informative.
Thank you.
Hey, Jeff, while we wait to see if there's any questions that bubble up, could you maybe explain just a little bit more how ProtocolNow got its start?
Yes, so ProtocolNow got its start the way all good technology gets its start. Somebody in the trenches doing the work had a problem and they wanted a solution. So one of our co-founders is an MFM, and he realized that he just did not have access to the protocols he needed. He was working at multiple hospitals, he was working at a private practice, and if he wanted to tell somebody else about how they managed a certain situation, he couldn't do it. And if he could, it was because there was a PDF somewhere, or there was a laminated card or a folder. So he realized that we need a solution. We need something better than that. And so he got together with some people in the business world and the technology world, and they started building the ProtocolNow platform. And it's really his brainchild, and it's grown into a bigger team here. And obviously the platform has moved way beyond even his original expectations. But that was the original heart of the platform here and of the entire business is people need a solution that's helpful and that leads to better outcomes. And we're trying to provide